Students, welcome to today's class. We are going to discuss elementary particles in today's class, and elementary particles is a very important part of nuclear physics. In fact, it is also known as high energy physics, study of elementary particles, and it is also known as particle physics. So this is the part 1 of today's class. So let's move on to understand what is elementary particle, and I suppose you already know. We know that elementary particles usually in the beginning they were called the fundamental particles. And we know what are fundamental particles. When we studied earlier, we knew that fundamental particles are particles which composes all material in this world. And in the beginning we knew that matter is composed of molecules. Then we come to molecules. Then we know that molecules can be divided into number of or a single atom. We come to know. Then we also come to know that atoms consist of electron and the nucleus. And the nucleus, we know it is composed of the proton and the electron. So now we know that the molecule or the atom or the nucleus, these are not fundamental particles because they are composed of other particles. So this is very basic actually, but I thought I would start with this basics. So we have proton and electron, and then not proton and electron, it should be neutron because we are talking about the nucleus. So the nucleus is composed of protons and neutrons, and we have discussed quite a lot about this one. And okay, so protons and neutrons. But then in studying the Yukawa's meson theory, we also came to know that protons and neutrons, they continuously change their states between a state of proton and a state of neutron. That means proton and neutron are also not fundamental particles. So we also come to know that there are certain particles like the pions and the mesons. So you see, the family of fundamental particles, the members of the family members of fundamental particles now are increasing. That which consisted of electron, proton and neutron, now we know that there are many other family members of the fundamental particles, and so there was a necessity of studying all these as a separate branch of physics, and that branch of physics is called particle physics. It's called particle physics, and particle physics is also known nowadays as high energy physics. Why high energy? Because particles, you see, we don't find pions and mesons, muons and all these things everywhere. So the great deal of energy is required to break particles into some of these particles, and so it's known as high energy physics. So for us, for our undergraduate classes, it is enough to know about the members, certain characteristics about them, and without going to the mathematical details. So it's a highly mathematical subject, but fortunately for our undergraduate classes, we don't have to go to these parts. So let's go back to what so many things about this particle physics. So now at present we have a model called the Standard Model, which describes elementary particles very well, and according to the Standard Model, there is a elementary particle called quark, which composes proton and neutron. But then it is very much necessary to know how elementary particles were classified before the discovery of the Standard Model. because that will help us to remember so many things. So now what we are going to look at is how elementary particles were classified before the discovery of quarks and the Standard Model. So you have to remember this diagram. Look at this. We have this elementary particles which are broadly divided into the bosons and the fermions, which probably you know. So what are fermions? These are particles that obey the Fermi-Dirac statistics. They obey Fermi-Dirac statistics, and they are particles that have got half integral spin. And on this side we have the bosons, which obey the Bose-Einstein statistics. So this should be statistics, and they have got integral spin. So this is the division, and let us see how these fermions or the Fermi-Dirac these fermions, they are divided into leptons. They are divided into leptons and baryons like this. And baryons are divided into, now let's see, leptons, baryons. These are the leptons and these are the baryons. And leptons, as the name suggests, these are, so we were here, first let's look at this. We were here, leptons, they are light particles, and baryons are heavy particles. And nucleons are very well known to us, and hyperons are some particles that are not known to us. Actually, students, it's very much necessary to remember this chart, because if you remember this chart, you can write about anything. If someone asks you what are hyperons, you will say that hyperons, at least you can answer one question, that hyperons are what? They are particles that obey Fermi-Dirac statistics, that is hyperons, because they are fermions. And you can say that yes, they are the heavy fermions because they are baryons also. Nucleons, we know they are the protons and the neutrons. And what are these leptons actually? Leptons are the light particles, and they are the electrons, the muons and all these things. And on the other side we have the bosons, and bosons, you see, they are photons and gravitons. Photons we know, but gravitons we probably have not heard about. We will learn what is a graviton later on. And then we have the mesons. And what are mesons? Mesons are, they have different types of mesons. They are K mesons and the pi mesons. Then you see this mesons, again you have a different type of classification, that the mesons and the nucleons, and the hyperons, they together form a group called the hadrons. The hadrons, or the strongly interacting particles. So if someone asks you what are hadrons, they are strongly interacting particles. Now what do you mean by strongly interacting particles? We will come to know after some time when we look at the interactions between particles. So we have, what are hadrons? They constitute a family containing the nucleons, the hyperons and the mesons. So these names might sound very strange to you now, but then you will remember if you go through it once or twice. Now strange particle, you see, look at this, the next slide. The K mesons, that means which are the K mesons? Out here. You see there are different types of mesons, of which these are the K mesons and these are the pi mesons. And you see K mesons are also known as kaons. And what are the pi mesons? They are also known as pions. Pi mesons are of three types: pi plus, pi 0 and pi minus. And what are kaons? Well, kaons are k plus, k minus, k neutral and k neutral bar. And look at the next slide, you will see that the k mesons and the hyperons, they together form, you see, look at this hyperons. Hyperons have got strange type of symbols attached to them. So these are different types of k mesons. So these are called the hyperons. So these are hyperons, and they are together called strange particles. Now that means if someone asks you what are the strange particles, you can write a note from that chart itself. So what are the strange particles? Let us go to like this. So strange particles are the k mesons and the hyperons from here. That means what? From here this k meson plus this hyperons together make up the strange particles. So you see there are different types of particles. Now why they are called strange is because they exhibit certain strange characteristics. So why they are called strange particles? That the particles exhibit the following strange behavior. Now what are these behavior? Now they are saying decay mode different from production mode. Now what is decay mode and what is production mode? You see students, even though we have classified and we have just now introduced you to so many different names, these are not available everywhere around us. These are produced during nuclear interaction between different particles. Some of them exist for a very small time. So production mode means the method by which they have been produced, and after that sometimes most of the particles, they decay again and become another particle. So that means even though we have about more than 108 particles, now the numbers are increasing, these particles, they do not exist for a long time. Some of them has got as small as 10 to the power minus 8 seconds their lifetime is. But then even though they exist for such a small time, they exist. So they have got a name, and we should consider them as a elementary particle. So you see, that means there is a production mode associated with some of these particles, and there is also a decay mode associated with these particles. And in case of all particles except the strange particles, the decay mode and the production mode are the same kind of method. But in case of strange particles, they are always different. That is one of the strange qualities exhibited by this one. Again, another second point is that, what is the second point? The second point is that these strange particles, they are never produced singly. That means you can have a proton or a pion can be produced singly. That means one can be produced. But here they are always produced like this, a k plus and a k minus, like this, or a sigma particle and another sigma particle may be like this, one negative and one like this. But then, so this the quality that they are produced in pairs is known as associated production. So if a question is asked that why the strange particles are called strange, they are called strange because they exhibit the following two strange behaviors. Their decay modes are different from production mode, and they are produced in pairs, that is, which is called associated particles. Now I have put an asterisk out here. That means what? This